What's going on YouTube? So right beside me is the all-new 2027 Volvo EX60. Now you probably saw on the channel we already did a walk around and in-depth test drive with this product, but beside me is the P10 version. This is the more powerful powertrain with over 500 horsepower on board. And we're going to take a test drive, show you all the performance of this today. First, I'm going to give you a little bit of a walk around as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now, like I said, today's video is going to be focused on that drive and showing you guys all the performance that you get on board, because we have already covered many of these details in our first review with the EX60. That being said, I do want to just kind of quickly take a look around the exterior and the inside. Now, up here in the front, of course, this has the latest evolution of Volvo's design language. There's no specific details that actually change depending on the powertrain in terms of the design, although, of course, there are some trim levels that do modify different things with the front end design. What you're looking at right now is the Ultra trim, so this is the top spec of the P10. Of course, it's going to include things like our signature Thor's hammer, daytime running light and turn signal indicator up there at the top. And then down in the center section, you also have your standard adaptive LED headlights here on the Ultra trim. Now you also have several different wheel designs to choose from. These are the largest option. It's the 22-inch alloys. As you can see, got that multi-spoke design. I really like the look of these, and they're also very conventional, you know, compared to many EVs, which have mostly sealed off looks. Up here at the mirrors, we've got a very aerodynamic shape. Of course, you have lots of camera systems integrated down there at the bottom. These have that frameless design as well, and they're going to come with things such as auto dimming and power folding. Now, as I kind of pull back here, you'll see that the EX60 has a fairly unconventional look, very streamlined with those door handles, no roof rails. And then the back, I think, is really the biggest departure from many of the Volvos that came before. Definitely a more squared off shape to this, again, more aerodynamically inspired. Your taillights are in two different pieces, so you've got a full LED setup kind of right there and up there. So you still have the vertical effect, but it does look profoundly different, than many of the other Volvo products. Now, since this is the P10, that does upgrade your available tow rating now to 4,500 pounds instead of a little over 3,000 pounds with the base P6 option. I'll go ahead and open up the charge port here. Of course, I'm in Europe right now, as you could probably tell. We're not going to have the NACS charger on this model as you would have in the US, but it would be standard in the States, of course. And then as far as your safety features are concerned, you're going to get all of them as standard equipment, including the new adaptive safety belt for this 2027 EX60. Now let's go ahead and check out the inside. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
And if you want to know about all the latest and greatest rides, then make sure to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the newest cars. Now, to get inside every EX60, you have phone as key, so Volvo provided me with this iPhone for the day to act as the key. And of course, as I was pointing out earlier, you've got this new winglet design for the actual door handles. Very simple. You're just going to pinch behind there. That will unlock the door and open it right up. I do like this design actually a lot better than the pop-out door handles on the EX90. They're much more responsive and easier to use. And then let's check out this interior. Like I was mentioning, very modern, very sleek design. It does also go in a different direction from many of the other Volvo products, once again, such as the EX90. The seats are going to be the typical Volvo, though. Very comfortable seats. You've got that super sculpted design on board. And as far as the materials are concerned, you start with Nordico. That's what you see here on today's model. But one thing I want to point out is that the Ultra in the States will come with Nappa leather instead of the Nordico. I really like that Volvo listened to the US consumer specifically and made sure that the Ultra in the States will come with Nappa leather, not just the Nordico. You can also get wool if you prefer that as well. And there are several different interior color choices you can pick from as well. Lots of adjustments to the seats. You get extra adjustments on the Ultra. No massage, but you do have a power thigh extension. And memory seats are going to be located inside your driver profile in the main display. Now we'll climb on inside here. Close up the door. I like this door grab. We also have the frameless glass windows. And then I'll look around here and we'll kind of check out the rest of the cabin materials on board. Really nice stuff. Leatherette all through here with the perforated design, soft touch materials through here. As you move to the upper dashboard, this is all finished in a cloth, and you also have a open pore wood that goes all the way across and out to the other side. And then you have a little bit of wood right through there, and then the whole center section here is basically just completely opened up. To start it up, you just put your foot on the brake and just shift into drive or reverse. Now you probably also noticed up here at the top of the dashboard, we got this thin display. It's about 11 inches. It's very high resolution, and this acts as your gauge cluster on the model, as well as like a head-up display just because of the positioning and how flat the dashboard is. You can reconfigure this with lots of information, including a map display. As we pull back to the steering wheel, kind of working with that display is a flat top and bottom steering wheel, so you can easily see over there to that. This is going to be a power adjusting steering wheel, and you also have available heating. Just be aware that to adjust the steering wheel or the mirrors, you do need to go inside of the central display to make those changes. Rain sensing wipers are also standard equipment. Turn over here to your center console area. This is an interesting configuration because no traditional console, but you actually tap right there. That pops out your cup holders. You can actually retract those as well, give you additional storage. And then you got the giant pass-through. As you can see, absolutely enormous amount of space where you can stick just about anything. Again, this is the type of thing that's made possible by the dedicated BEV platform that this is on, the SPA 3. Up in front here, you can pinch that down. That's going to reveal your glove box. Yes, it is right here. There is no traditional glove box over there. It's going to be in the center instead. And then you've got a nice storage shelf with a standard wireless phone charging pad. The shifter is up here on the column. Press down for drive, press up for reverse. When you go into reverse, we have a standard 360-degree camera system. And as you can see, nice overhead view. It fills up the entire screen super well. Now, another big highlight of the interior is the available 28-speaker Bauer & Wilkins audio system. Sounds absolutely phenomenal. I'll go ahead and give you guys a sample of this system. By the way, you do have a physical volume roller. Yeah, we've always praised the Bauer & Wilkins in Volvos, and this is no exception. The sound quality is phenomenal. You have speakers pretty much everywhere, including in all of the headrests. All 4 of the headrests have speakers in them now, so it gives the sound quality a very three-dimensional feel to it. Of course, you have the tweeter up there at the top, and it's just extremely detailed. You hear things in music that you don't usually hear in rival systems. All right. Now we've got our 15-inch central display. We can talk a little bit about that. It does have a subtle curve to it, so it's a little hard to see on camera, but basically Volvo said they curved it just so everybody can see it equally, including the passenger. It has a lot of functions inside of it. Like I was mentioning earlier, many of the vehicle controls do live inside of here, like your lights, your mirrors, turning your steering wheel up and down and stuff like that is all going to be inside of there. Also, of course, you have Google Apps built in. This is a new system for Volvo, so it has a lot more processing power than the previous version that you may have seen on our channel where we reviewed the EX90, for example. We did have some glitches and stuff. This is a lot faster. I haven't had any problems with it. Definitely performs nicely. You're going to have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as well in the US. We also have climate controls inside of the screen. One thing you might have noticed is the vents are very low profile. There's no way to control them except for inside of the screen, so you do have to actually point that, but the actual temperature adjustment is pretty easy. It's just down there at the bottom all the time. As far as the seats specifically, you can see, of course, you have standard 3-stage heated seats. Both the Nordico seats and the Nappa leather seats can add ventilation. You just can't get the ventilation with the wool seats if that's something you're considering. All right, up top here, we've got an auto-dimming mirror with a frameless design. And then we also have a very large panoramic sunroof. This is another nice standard feature. The sunroof itself, as you can see, is a super large piece of glass. It does not open up, but you can get an available electrochromic dimming system, which is what we have on right now. So when I tap in the display, I can take that from transparent to opaque, depending on what I need, and that kind of helps cut down on how much heat is coming in to the cabin since there's not a sunshade. Now, to finish up this quick walk around with the P10 all-wheel drive, I'll take a look at the back seats real fast. We have 37.4 inches of legroom and 40.6 inches of headroom, so very good figures. Those are roughly in line with what you get in an XC60. Also, on your top spec models, you have things such as heated seats. We have a 3-zone climate system. You have vents, USB connections, storage back there, and you also have power recline, which is located right over here on the door trim. And for your cargo capacity, you have quite a bit, 20.4 cubic feet with all the seats in place, and your maximum is 64.3 cubic feet. That is going to include the 3 cubic foot frunk you have up there, and also the ample underfloor storage that you'll find right here. So if I lift open the carpet, you can see we have a bin there. I'm not really sure why there's little crabs down there at the bottom, but you also have the other side as well with plenty of storage for your charger, things like that. And this is what it looks like with all the seats folded down. Plenty of space. You can do that electronically by releasing with those buttons right there. Now, in today's test drive, we're going to be going over all the usual assortment of information. We're going to talk about ride quality, stuff like that. And we're going to start with a hard acceleration, so let's get to it. Very nice. All right, so taking off with this P10 all-wheel drive EX60. Oh, she's quick. So, some specifications about this model. You have a 91 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. That's the usable capacity. Dual motor all-wheel drive, and together we have 503 horsepower. So, as you probably expected, that is going to take this off quite a lot of haste. Oh yeah, this is quick. Now, 0 to 60, according to Volvo, is about 4.4 seconds. However, Sophion from Redline Reviews actually clocked it at 3.9 seconds. So it's probably, faster than even Volvo says. You could be looking at under 4 seconds with this, which wouldn't surprise me. It really does feel very quick on its feet. As soon as you get off the line, you get that immediate power, of course. It's a full electric product. You've got that instantaneous torque and that nice pushback in your seat. Oh yeah, definitely quite nice. Now, I also was able to drive the P6 rear wheel drive. That's the basic powertrain. That has only 369 horsepower. Obviously, that's plenty of power for most people, and it was, what I would say is more than adequate as well for most people. But like I mentioned at the beginning, Volvo says that the P10 will be the volume seller for the US, most likely. And I can see why. This kind of hits the sweet spot. The P12 model, which is coming a little bit later than the P6 and the P10, that one has 647 horsepower. So that's a ton of power. 500 is a good middle ground, I think. Again, it is more than what most people need, but when you're choosing to buy a luxury electric crossover, I think you do want a little bit more power than what you get in the mainstream offerings, and this is something that is going to deliver the luxury of smooth power. Now, another important thing that this version does is add in adaptive dampers over top of the P6. So this allows you to actually be able to customize that a little bit when you go into different drive modes. So right now, I've been in the performance drive mode. So that's going to actually kind of stiffen up your springs a little bit, allowing you to be able to whip around corners like I've been doing. Now, if you're noticing it doesn't look like home, that's because, I am in Spain once again, and there's some really nice curvy roads around this area of the vineyard, and really enjoying the drive with this P10 all-wheel drive. Definitely, puts the power down. It grips. Good body control as well. Now, it is going to be a relatively heavy vehicle at the end of the day, and Volvo's not really a high-performance brand. They don't pretend to be. So when you kind of go around corners, you will feel a little bit of body roll, but I think this is a really excellent balance overall, and I can feel a difference with the adaptive dampers versus the standard setup in the P6. This does feel like you have better performance, better control. You don't even have a performance mode on the standard P6 model, so this does give you that extra performance, the ability to kind of unlock it, and then just tailor what you're driving like. So if you want to go back to the comfort mode and just cruise along with the best ride quality, you can certainly do that. But I will say, even in the performance setting, the ride quality still feels fantastic. Yeah, this is actually a lot of fun to kind of whip around the corners. The steering is pretty light, I will say. I kind of expected as much. Volvos typically do have very light steering, so it is light. Could use maybe a little bit more feel, but you can see it's very responsive. You don't have to turn very much at all, and this also has a very small steering wheel that's kind of squared off on the top and bottom, which itself kind of gives it a sporty feel when you whip around the corners. Now, for the P10, the range is at a maximum of 322 miles by Volvo's estimate. It will go down a little bit if you choose bigger wheel size, such as the 22s that we have on today's example. And speaking of 22-inch wheels, this would be a great time to kind of talk about the ride quality. I talked about the extra performance you get from the adaptive dampers, but again, the ride quality also benefits from that. Let me toggle back into the standard mode here. And it is extremely comfortable. So, like I said, I was even comfortable in the performance mode. That's even more comfortable in the standard configuration. Now, I will say the roads are very smooth in Spain, definitely a lot smoother than what we have back home in the States. But even still, when you do hit the occasional bump, you really don't feel hardly anything. I will also say that the seats on this vehicle are absolutely fantastic. I expected as much from Volvo, and indeed they do deliver. This is another just fantastic seat that you just feel like you could be comfortable setting in all day long. Now, another thing that's impressed me about this EX60 is just how quiet it is. It is a very, very isolated vehicle. So one thing is that you don't hear any electric noises at all. So that's kind of interesting. When you floor it, a lot of times in EVs, you hear a little whine, stuff like that. I actually don't hear hardly anything at all with this vehicle. And then, of course, there's just the general road noise, tire noise, and I also don't hear hardly anything at all with that as well. You do have the acoustic laminated glass, and I think that really contributes to the fact that you don't hear, really any types of road noise. And again, it's very aerodynamic, so, the air is kind of sliding around those mirrors and things like that. The little door handles are low profile, so there's not a lot of things to generate extra noise. So even when you're going on the highway like I was earlier off camera at 120 or so kilometers per hour, it still remains extremely quiet. Now, of course, I will point out, as you can see, I'm alone, so I'm not going to be able to take a sound level reading, but I look forward to testing out this vehicle back home in Kentucky because I'm pretty sure it's going to get a really solid sound level reading. Now, I also want to talk about today's slam dunk and airball. For the slam dunk, specifically related to the P10, I'm going to say it's the balance between the performance and the ride quality. Obviously, Volvo is a luxury brand and it feels very, very comfortable, but also when you go into the performance mode, it handles quite well. It feels buttoned down enough that you can really have some fun when you're going around some curves. Now, on the airball side of things, I'm going to go with some of the touchscreen controls. You know, this system does work a lot better than the previous versions that Volvo rolled out. That being said, there's still some quirks like adjusting the vents inside of the screen. I certainly don't really like that, and just some things that with the menu that can be a little bit confusing. Now, as far as pricing is concerned, I think you'll be impressed with the price point. That's because the P10 all-wheel drive actually only costs about $2,300 more trim level to trim level than the P6 rear-wheel drive. So you're getting a lot of extra performance, a lot of extra power, a lot of extra range, and it doesn't cost you all that much extra money. Plus, you've got all-wheel drive as well. So the actual prices on this for the base P10 is going to be $60,750, and then if you get the Ultra version, which is what we've been looking at today, that starts at $67,350 in the US. Of course, if you're looking to get the best price on a EX60 or any new vehicle, make sure to go to carconfections.com/new car quotes. That's going to give you access to things like a monthly payment tool and invoice pricing information, which is great for dealership negotiation. Now let's talk about resale value and reliability. Starting with resale value, Volvo is rated at 42.5% of retained value after 5 years and 60,000 miles, and 12.52% after 10 years and 120,000 miles. That is about the same as other European rivals, but below average, of course, compared to other, especially mainstream brands. Now, for reliability, we developed the Combined Reliability Index, and with the latest 2026 data, Volvo is rated well below the overall industry average for all vehicle makes. Now, if you want to find out more information about resale and reliability, how we derive that, as well as being able to sort and see how the brands rank against each other, go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this in-depth test drive and quick walk around with the Volvo EX60 P10 all-wheel drive. If you did, make sure you go down below and click subscribe. That's how brands know that you value our content and allows us to get cool opportunities such as coming to Spain to be amongst the first people in the entire world to sample this important all-new product from Volvo. If you're already a fan and subscriber, we appreciate your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.